Welcome to our farm tour. We're so grateful you're here today. My name is Rianne Janovic. I am 21 Acres administrative assistant, virtual host person, and we're here today with Ansley Roberts behind the, oh no, in front of the camera. Ansley is our farm team member, an incredible person, and just a really talented regenerative farmer. Super grateful to work with Ansley. And we have Angelica behind the camera as well, an incredible wetland restoration specialist who we're really grateful has been a part of our community for so long. And it's been a treasure to have you on campus. So I wanted to share a little bit about 21 Acres. Just for folks who may not know about us, we are a living laboratory in Woodinville, Washington, and we serve to educate our communities around climate change and how to participate in climate action. We found that promoting and building resilient food systems that are rooted in agroecology is an amazing way to do that. We promote regenerative farming, sustainable land stewardship, and also adopting sustainable living and building practices. We also have building tours, definitely check those out. And I'd like to give a land acknowledgement to where we're currently situated. 21 Acres is located in Woodinville, Washington, on the ancestral lands of Indigenous nations, including the Duwamish and Coast Salish peoples, as well as the Stillaguamish. And we acknowledge that these nations are the original stewards of this land, and we honor both the land itself and the Coast Salish people, past and present. We appreciate you joining us to learn how we're trying to honor and steward this land for future generations. And I hope that you enjoy the beauty of it all. So without further ado, I am going to put your mic on or ask you to unmute, and I will mute and be in the chat. Thanks.
Hey y'all, like Rianne said, my name is Ansley Roberts, farm team member here at 21 Acres, and special shout out to Angelica, who is our beautiful director today. And just forewarning, thank you all for your patience as we navigate wireless signal and trying to operate technology on the farm, because it is a process and we are continuously working through it. So I appreciate your patience. Like Rianne said, we are a center for sustainability and especially focused on local food systems. We do that in a multitude of ways. We have 5 acres of in-ground production here. Hi, buddy. That includes a diversified vegetable system, as well as livestock. We have goats and pigs on site. And then we also have some flower production as well, and a heavy cover crop rotation, which I would love to get more into later in the tour. We also support local food systems through, don't need my boot, friend, through our farm market, which is at the top 3 acres of our site. And we source entirely from local farms around the area. It's a really beautiful snapshot of what Washington Ag has to offer. So highly suggest checking that out. And we also have educational programs through these tours, as well as through our volunteer program. And we'll see some of our volunteers in action later. So I can talk about that more then. I am very excited to show y'all the farm and what we have going on here. We really have a heavy focus on local agriculture and sustainable agriculture. Specifically, our farm is certified organic, which means we do not use pesticides, and we prioritize practices that are beneficial for our environment. We even go a step further here, where we marry restoration of our wetland and natural habitats here on the farm to support our farming operations. And I'll also be talking about that more later. So in this moment, right now, we are with our beautiful pigs. They are a collaboration with 2 other farmers, Masra and Sean, Sean of Tuckmuck and Masra, who is the farm manager of the Black Farmers Collective. and those folks are holding this as a separate project. And we work with them, and these pigs really love pets, and they're trying to knock down Angelica.
They're so strong and adorable.
Yeah, they are very adorable. They actually, before I get too far into why we're very excited about having these pigs on site, I want to pause and have folks sort of interact with our chat and get more involved. And I'm going to ask you, what are you excited about learning or seeing on the farm today? If you could type that in the chat box, and then Rianne will read it aloud for us, and I'll do my best to try to get to everything that everybody wants to see.
Thank you.
Hi, Pigums.
Yes, and also for our guest who's here, I'd love to know where you're from, if you're local, because it'd be so cool to have you here at the farm when we're back to being open. We're just kind of getting there, soft openings right now. And I personally want to see the tomatoes and how they're growing, if there's any sweet varieties you like.
Mm-hmm. Well, good news for you, Rianne. We have a lot of tomatoes.
Yes. Uh-oh, sounds like too many. I'm so excited.
Are there really too many tomatoes?
No.
No such thing. Hi, buddy.
I really want to like freeze them this year and try to make sauces, kind of prep a big batch of sauce and try to, or, you know, keep it for the year. Yeah. Well,
some good stuff.
I think that's our only question right now, or our only interest. So when if any other things come up that you're curious about, please let us know. You can type in the chat. If there's a good time, you can unmute your microphone to talk. But yeah, we'll go ahead and show the pigs. Oh, sorry, one more thing. Just because pigs, I'm also going to link something in the chat for folks. A blog post about raising sustainable pork, kind of an intro to Masra as well.
Ooh, Masra is a lovely, lovely person. So
yes,
that is exciting. So the reason we are excited to have these pigs on site is multitude. So the first being that, as you can really see with this guy right here, their beautiful little shovel noses are so good at providing primary tillage on our site. So the pigs go through and they're foraging for beautiful grubs and what have you. And as they're doing that, they are offering a primary, basically, cultivation of our soil. And they also, as they go around and are getting to eat a lot of good things, are also providing a lot of nutrients through their poop. So it's part fertility, part tillage, part weed control as well, which is very exciting. And it's also one of the things I really love about this site is the opportunity to collaborate agents. So I'm very excited about this collaboration. Very excited to be working with Masra and Sean. They're wonderful people and have raised some really beautiful, fine pigs.
We kind of lost just audio of, I think you were kind of introducing Sean and Masra a little bit. Did you mention their farm? It just cut out.
Oh, yes. Sean is with Chukmuk and Masra is with Black Farmers Collective. But they are working separately on this endeavor together. Awesome. And yeah, and they're beautiful stewards of these lovely animals who are providing so many services for us. So I feel very grateful to have that partnership, and also very excited to just have pigs on site because they're so cute.
They are. They're incredible. I've been so amazed by how fast they can, you know, till and do. I guess it is kind of like a tilling situation. But it's also just regenerating the soil, taking out bad stuff too we don't want. So proud of them.
And one thing too, we could do a quick pan of where they've already been, and you can see in the background the space that they're going into. So a lot of grass that needs to get mowed down. And you can just see how good of a job they do at really clearing a space out without any mechanical tillage or using gas. So the environmental benefits of utilizing or incorporating livestock into crop systems is multifold, and I'm very excited to be able to experiment with that on the site.
Oh, that's so wonderful.
If we have, Rianne, do we have any questions about pigums or anything along those lines?
Actually, yes. How long is their stay on the farm? Is it under a year, or is it like 6 months?
Yeah, they got here in June. I'm trying to like, was it June? All my months are bleeding together. And I believe they are going to be off-site in September.
Cool.
And so one of the things that's also really good about having seasonal animals on this site is, as anyone who's familiar with Western Washington knows, our farm is in a wetland. So during the winter time, the ground is so wet that it's really hard to sustainably keep animals on site. You end up getting adverse effects for the soil, and that you can basically compact it if it's too wet and you have a lot of like heavy animals walking on it. You can also, it can lead to things like hoof rot, which is not fun for anyone to deal with. And so that's one thing we've kind of had to struggle with having our goats on site year round. And so we're looking into new management practices to deal with the effects of that. But it's really, that is one of the things that's really nice about having seasonal animals on site, is that we get a lot of the benefits, and we don't have to deal as much with adverse effects on site.
Oh, that's so brilliant. That's something I didn't consider, because yeah, maybe back in the day of when they had, you know, reign of their landscape, they would have migrated out and grazed up the hill or something. But oh, that's awesome.
Right.
Thank you, Ansley.
Cool. Well, thank you, Rianne. I think if we don't have any other questions, we might head on to our next stop.
Perfect.
Great. So thank you everyone for your patience if we do cut out a little bit. We were trying to figure this out earlier, and hopefully we won't, but there is not, it is not guaranteed.
It's pretty amazing that we can live stream from the farm with, like, you know, spotty Wi-Fi and spotty cell. It looks really good.
How about it?
Oh, Angelica, can we see just like the beautiful panoramic view of the farm today? It's insane. Yes. Oh, it literally gets better every second you turn. It's like, oh, thank you. Yeah, as we traverse this area, this is one of the areas we lost cell service.
Yeah. So fingers crossed, I'm gonna keep talking. We'll see how it goes. One of the things that's really important on this site, and Angelica might have more to contribute to this piece than I do, which is our natural ecosystem restoration program. One of the reasons that it's so important on our farm is we have a really heavy focus on climate sustainability, and really want to focus on farming practices that regenerate the land instead of degrading it. And part of that for us is fostering a really healthy ecosystem around our farm. On the farming side of that, the benefits are you have a really healthy natural system that is able to naturally fend off some of your pest pressure. You have really good water filtration, which is very important farming here in Western Washington. And it decreases the amount of drainage area or like stagnant water you have in your fields if you have really healthy wetlands surrounding your fields. One really good example of that is this field here. If you can see the little red flags, we have demarcated where the wetland is in this field. This soil that we're on right now is tuckmuck, which is really heavy clay soil. One property of clay soil is that it holds a lot of water. So in the wintertime, if you don't especially focus on areas where you're going to have that stagnant water, if you have any overwinter cover crops or production crops, they're going to get waterlogged and you're not going to have a lot of fruitful production in that area. So we've demarcated this wetland to tell ourselves and for future preservation that this area is a wetland, and we're going to work to preserve that and make sure that it's thriving. And also we have taken it out of farm production because we recognize that the multitude of benefits of having healthy wetlands. Angelica, do you have anything you want to say about wetlands, or I just put her on the spot, so you also don't have to.
And if you do want to speak,
Okay.
you could unmute or pass the words to Ansley.
I think at this moment we are passing. Cool. So with that, we are, if there is any questions about our wetland conservation or any other restoration efforts we have on site, I can try to answer them. I am not the restoration specialist, but we also have volunteer days on Wednesdays where we focus specifically on restoration efforts, and it's a really good hands-on way to get plugged in with what type of restoration we're doing out here.
Yes. I hope. The cell service is kind of funny again. But
okay.
I do. Oh, you're good now. Okay. I do have a question.
Yes.
Farming with wetland types of trees and other plants that are usually found in wetland areas. I can't remember who said this, but I've heard it's really productive to actually to farm next to wetlands and like have some of these like cooler weather crops grow there. Have we do we have any plans to try that in the future, or yeah.
So you're talking about farming near wetland borders and potentially areas that are shadier because of trees?
Yes. Yeah, and like the ecosystem that comes with that, any frogs or birds.
Well, we do have most of this back section, if you look around, is really surrounded by tree buffer that offers a multitude of services and that it's promoting native wildlife. One of the issues that I'm looking at literally below my feet right now is that it's also really fostering deer.
Oh, can we see some evidence,
Yeah.
Angelica?
So if you can often tell deer damage because it'll be just like snipped at the top.
Oh.
Whereas bunnies will often like go for leaves or like come at it more sideways. Deers just kind of like graze the top, which makes sense for how they're feeding. But yeah, this buckwheat is this is our buckwheat cover crop. We have this area is not producing vegetables at the moment, and also so we put areas that we aren't currently producing into cover crop for a multitude of reasons. The number one is soil health. Like I like to say, you know, we're an organic farm, so everything goes back to soil health, no matter what you're talking about. So cover crops are really good for the chemical properties of the soil. So really focusing on your macro and micronutrients and making sure you have a well-balanced soil for crop production. It has a lot of benefits for the physical properties of the soil, depending on the type of cover crop you're using. Something more fibrous is going to give you, so fibrous as in like, if you have a rye plant that has a big extensive root network, it's going to give you good aggregates in the soil. So when we're talking about aggregates, we are talking about like soil clumps is not the technical term, but that is what I'm using right now. And what you really, this soil, because it is really heavy clay, it's hard to get that fine aggregate. In some of the more production heavy parts that we have of this soil, we have a finer aggregate. But fibrous cover crops do a good job of breaking up those larger clumps and giving you this really fine tilth to work with. Which makes weeding easier, which makes harvesting easier. It just makes your life easier as a farmer. And then cover crops are also really good for the biological microbiome of the soil. So you're supporting your beautiful bacteria and fungi populations that are combating soil-borne illness. You have, cover crops are beautiful and wonderful, and we love them. This right here was a buckwheat cover crop, which is really good for pulling up phosphorus from the soil. And also bees love it.
Yes.
Yeah.
This is such a perfect explanation. And I just asked in the chat if our guest was familiar with cover crops. They said they weren't. So this is, I hope that's really helpful. If you have any questions about it, I feel like we could talk about cover crops for like 5 hours because they're so important and there's so many different types. I think at-home gardeners could really benefit from using cover crops too, to help build their soil health, not have to buy or create compost every year to try to juice up the soil, which isn't great to do, I've learned. And really, yeah, start building those systems naturally. I learned too, one of the coolest things I saw. Oh, sorry.
Oh, no, you go ahead.
Okay. Well, the one thing I was like really interested in doing was trying to grow mustard. If I have a parasitic nematode, I believe, I want to grow mustard and put it, when I trim it down and incorporate it back into the soil, it can act as a fumigant and kill those bad soil baddies.
Biofumigant.
Yes.
It's a beautiful thing.
Yes.
One thing I don't think I also mentioned is cover crop is really good for combating weed pressure. This site was left fallow, I want to say 2 seasons, but I might not be correct. It was left fallow long enough for really noxious weeds to establish. And so one of the things we're really focused on is combating that weed pressure every year. Since we don't have a large amount of crew on site, it's really important for us to let our beautiful cover crops and other forms of natural weed suppressants to do our jobs for us.
Yes, that's awesome.
Great. Do we have any more questions for this site?
Not at the moment, but if any come up, we are here for you. So let me know.
Great. I think next we are going to hop on over to our What's Hot portion of the farm tour, meaning that it is the big, beautiful, we're at almost at the crescendo of summer.
Yes. 3 cheers for squash or all the fruits. Hip, hip, hooray.
3 cheers for summer veggies. And so we are going to hop on over to our solanum block. Solanum is another term for, you might have heard, like the nightshade family. And they're all the hot crops, eggplants, peppers, tomatoes, all those things that folks, I feel like when they get into gardening are very excited to grow, and then they end up being really tricky. So we're gonna hop on over there. I am a little worried we're gonna lose you because we almost did last time.
And if we do, hope we can just wait it out. But we'll experiment if we have to switch back to Wi-Fi.
Right.
Yeah.
And
there's
Rianne, sorry.
Oh no, go ahead.
I was just gonna say you were talking about kind of like wildlife corridors and operating in spaces where wildlife are frequently. Unfortunately, this is a really good example of the invasive canary grass. But this site especially has a lot of wildlife running through it. So a lot of deer, a lot of coyotes also. We have a resident family of like 2 coyotes that live on site. And to me, that's just a really good sign of a healthy ecosystem. We also have a lot of larger birds that are hanging out in those trees, kind of to your point of offering natural beneficial services. So whether that's, eating bugs, eating smaller pests, like we don't have that many rats out here, but eating smaller pests. Yeah, it's good stuff.
When you first mentioned coyotes, I was shaking my head in my little screen, but that is such an important realization that they are an indicator of healthy functioning ecosystems, and I should not shake my head. I should welcome them.
Yeah, and one thing I would also say is that one of our biggest pests out here are eastern cottontail bunnies. So often if you're around and you see bunnies hopping around, they are actually invasive. They reproduce very quickly, as they are known to do. And currently on our site, our kale is very sad because of them. So I feel very conflicted when I see bunnies.
You're like,
so our coyotes are very helpful. Yeah, I'm like, come on, coyotes, let's do this. Okay, so this is our solanum field. One thing you'll see, we also have zinnias, which I'm in love with all of the flowers, so I'm very excited that they seem to be doing well right now. We have our lovely volunteers out in the field trellising right now. So one of the things that I really love to see people get passionate about is tomatoes. I hold that with a gigantic asterisk because I call them the princess of the garden. And by that, I mean, they need lots of love and attention, and that, it takes a lot of effort to trellis them. But the reason we do that is one, for ease of harvest. That's a really big piece of it, but also tomatoes are very susceptible to a lot of different diseases, one of them being blight. And one of the ways you combat blight organically, because we're an organic farm and we are not just spraying chemicals to kill all of our diseases, is through making sure that they have adequate airflow. And to do that, one, trellising, making sure they're off of the ground and they're not as easily getting into diseases that might be in the soil. But also diseases from the soil are coming from your root system. So anyway, so you're getting that airflow through trellising. You're also doing that through pruning. Let's see if we can find a fun example. So tomato plants, we have pruned our tomato plants so that they have 2 leaders. So that's 2 big branches here that are going to be really our production branches. And when you also have what are called suckers. So you can see this is actually a sucker that's gone very far. Let's focus on this guy because I get a little nervous about pruning really large suckers. It's okay to do, but sometimes when you open up the plant that much and basically like you're creating a cut on the plant, you can sometimes make it more susceptible to disease. So it's optimal to get suckers when they're like this size or smaller. And a sucker is going to be right at this kind of elbow joint. And you just want to boop, pop it off. And the reason you do that is one, because of the airflow, which I talked about earlier. And the other reason is these guys have a heavier concentration of a chemical that creates, that causes senescing. So senescing just means like death, basically. So in pruning those suckers, you're ensuring that you have really good airflow in this plant and that you're less likely, that you're increasing the longevity of your plant and less likely to get disease. And also the smell of tomato plants is my favorite.
It's so heavenly to smell the tomato
I wish you had
plants.
smell-o-vision.
We're kind of losing the audio just a little bit, but it keeps coming back at the same time. But I don't know.
So another thing too. Okay.
Yeah, we're good.
Okay. Oh, we're good. Okay. I'm like, don't move. Also, if you look over here, we have our caterpillar tunnel, and we can go walk in there in a second.
Yeah.
But we have our peppers and eggplants in there. And one of the reasons is that solanums, guys, they're heat-loving crops. And there's a lot of beautiful benefits of living in Washington. Generally, I guess I will say mild summers are really good for a lot of crops. One thing these heat-loving crops are missing is extra heat. So we have this high tunnel here that we just put up this week, and I'm very excited about, that is providing an extra layer of heat. If you're familiar with the greenhouse effect, we're trapping our heat in that plastic, and it is keeping our little babies hotter.
Wow,
we also
awesome.
have tomatillos in this section,
Ooh,
which are really good for green salsa.
I would love to see what your tomatillos look like. I've just started growing one for the first time, and
Yeah,
they're so pretty. Oh, delicious
yeah.
lanterns.
Tomatillos are fun.
So it just hit me. Can you look back to the right again? Is all of that tomatoes all the way? All of
Yes, it
that?
is.
Oh my gosh, that's amazing. So every little post is tomato staking.
That is all tomatoes.
And I'm so grateful we can feed our communities. We have partnerships that we've hooked up with. Can you maybe correct me if I'm wrong, but Teen Feed and Fair Start and Harmless Harvest, those are some folks that.
Yeah, we also work with Hunger Intervention Program and Woodinville Storehouse, and we have a budding relationship with the U District Food Bank.
Awesome.
We do also sell our produce at the 21 Acres Farm Market. And we have a big emphasis on, since we have this space that we can grow and we have more than we can operate with just the farm market, we do have a really big focus on feeding the community, which is really amazing.
That's so special.
Just makes very grateful. And our volunteer program is a very big part of making that happen, because we are a two-person operation, myself and our farm operations lead, Anthony Reyes. Yeah, we appreciate all the help we can get.
Yeah.
So here, oh my gosh, I am already regretting walking in here. It is so hot, but so good for our peppers.
Angelica, the phone is like coming in and out. I don't even know what to recommend, but it looks great now. So never mind. Every time I speak, it gets better. Sorry.
Maybe it's movement.
Maybe. Anyway, that's amazing.
Yeah, so we have a lot of really exciting peppers. We have chilahuacles, which are really good for mole. We have poblanos. We have, we did not get the bell peppers. We had the woes of farming. We had our greenhouse collapse in the big storm in February, a big winter storm. So all of our summer crops that take a long time, so a lot of these solanums got pushed back. And then we also had we had a big heat wave in April where we lost a lot of peppers. So we are working with what we got.
And you're doing amazing. Just to know like how many starts we did start with, to see them now, it's awesome.
Yeah, they're looking good, and I am getting out of this greenhouse. It is doing its job.
Stay hydrated. We do have a question from our guest. We find that the local wildlife or introduced invasive animal / plant species, do we find that those species are problematic in regards to farming? Since we're organic and whatnot, we're really just working with the available resources. But yeah, just wondering if those are problematic at all.
I function very strongly in the nothing is good or bad spectrum. We definitely struggle with certain invasive species like the bunnies. And, we have adverse effects from some of our native species like deer. However, because our focus is so much on environmental sustainability and promoting climate action here, we really want to emphasize the benefits of welcoming these wild neighbors onto your farm. And I think a big piece for me is having this wildlife on site means that we have a healthy ecosystem. And there are so many, one of the things about organic agriculture is you are plugging into all of you're trying to foster an environment that's so well balanced that you are able, that eventually those things start to balance each other out. And a big piece of that is sometimes stepping back and accepting the loss and finding out how to work with nature rather than against it. So one of the things we utilize, which is not in this field, is remay or row cover.
Yeah.
And it's basically just like a giant white cloth that you put over your plants when they're a lot younger and a lot more tender and enticing little baby microgreens to all of our four-legged critters that are trying to eat everything.
We're just switching from Wi-Fi to cell service or vice versa, by the way. So we lost the screen, but we can hear you perfectly.
Great. Yeah, so all that to say that it is a delicate dance and balance. And I think that as organic farmers, it is really our duty to tap in with our natural environment and to observe it and to work with it and figure out what is beneficial for your production end goals and how that goal is also met by preserving and stewarding your environment.
That is just such a beautiful answer and a really great question as well, because it seems to be the biggest challenge of doing things organically and sustainably is learning how to work with the environment, the natural cycles, and find ways that aren't damaging to the ecosystems that can still protect our crops. Like, yeah, that remay, I'm gonna try to use that at my house.
It is a beautiful, beautiful thing. Great.
It's sorry about the camera.
So
I'm telling Angelica all these things in the chat, like maybe switch back. Never mind, switch back again. Sorry.
That's okay. Yeah, huge shout out to trying to be our technological wizard in this crazy landscape of
You're
struggling
so
Wi-Fi.
amazing. and to walk over all the perilous things, all the like the
Yes.
grasses that could trip you. You're doing amazing.
No one has fallen yet. I consider that a victory.
Okay.
One thing. Great.
Oh, it's back.
I can. One thing we can also do is we have 15-ish minutes. I don't know, Rianne, how are you feeling about heading over to squash?
I would love
Do
that.
you wanna? Okay.
Yeah.
Onto the squash. It's summertime. What's hot?
It's hot.
It's
What's hot?
squash. Yeah, we currently at the we just started harvesting. Our squash was at a place where it was ready to be harvested. We're about on our 3rd week, and we are already at the space where we are harvesting close to 300 pounds a week.
That is amazing. Oh my God.
So get your wheelbarrows ready.
Yes.
We have a lot of squash. What?
I really want to learn. I have a question when we get to the squash about any tips you have to make your plants more productive, or when you should be trimming. Oh, hi, volunteers. We love you so much.
Thank you, volunteers.
Thank you. That was a good shot. But, wow, it's so beautiful today.
The beautiful thing about our volunteer program is, one, yes, it is beneficial to our farm, and we glean a lot of help from having folks on site, but it really, to me, feels like a space to learn together, and to be able to talk about hands-on what we're doing on site and have folks engage in their own local food system in a very hands-on way. And, you know, folks, we've had a lot of folks who are interested in either growing more things in their garden or even potentially getting into farming. And it just feels like a really great way to engage with folks who are interested in where our food comes from, how it's grown, and how they can be a part of it. And we also have a lot of folks who are like, I don't know what any of this is. And it's just, it's a really beautiful space to be able to engage people and talk to them about the importance of local food systems and supporting smaller scale agriculture and organic agriculture, and literally having them see and experience what that's like. So we have volunteer days on Wednesday and on Saturday. And we welcome all to come visit us. So currently we are in our summer squash. The family these guys are in are cucurbits. It is my personal favorite family of vegetables. It has summer squash like zucchini, you know, yellow summer squash, patty pans, which I'm going to show you in a sickety sec, as well as your fall squash, your pumpkins, your watermelons, your cantaloupes, just so many good things in the cucurbit family. Also, they have these little spikes on their leaves, which makes them less enticing to pests. I'm sorry, Rianne, to say this right now. I feel like I'm attacking, but
no.
And they're also really great ground cover. As you can see, they really branch out. These types of summer squash are meant to stay more compact, but if we went across the field into some of the winter squashes, you would see them starting to vine out and really take over. We also have some giant pumpkins that are for our Sammamish Valley giant pumpkin competition. And we've been talking a lot of trash. We'll see how it goes. And I am personally very excited about these guys. These are patty pan squash. Oh my God, you can see the tiny baby one too. So little.
Like a ghost.
And normally I would be doing this with snips, but we're just going to pretend that I did. And I really love these guys because they look like tiny little Pac-Man ghosts. um, and they're really good. One of the things that I think is really interesting about summer squash is the first time I ever worked with summer squash, I found a zucchini that was like this big, and I was like, oh my God, so cool, giant zucchini. I'm so excited. And then one of my coworkers was like, that's going to taste horrible, right? And the reason is because once summer squash get larger, they're really focused on producing seeds. So they become more fibrous, and not as that, like you think of like a really good zucchini as like crisp and like smooth, but that's not the word I'm looking for. But really crisp. And once they get that large, they're basically, it's zucchini bread or nothing. And so these guys are good even as like tiny little baby squashes. And this is a good size to do them. You can do little stuffed patty pans if that's your forte. But I just had some grilled zucchini, which was beautiful. Yeah, and I just really want to encourage folks to take a look either at their farmers market, at our farm market. Some grocery stores also have like what's in season. Check out in your area what's in season when. I think I was really surprised to be like, what do you mean I can't have tomatoes year round? Mm-hmm. I mean, they are there, but they are probably coming from South America or very, very far away, and then have a very, very high carbon footprint.
Yeah, so if you grow so locally, and you can get really hyper local and try it in your backyard, but eating seasonally has the biggest impact, I feel like, on our food systems. You're no longer shipping across the country, and you're connecting with people who are investing in the soils that will prevent floods, that will, if you're helping by supporting like an organic or regenerative farmer, like you're also investing in your ecosystem. Really good point.
Yeah. So I think with that, I would love to hear if we have any more questions, if there's other burning things we didn't get to that folks want to discuss.
Yes. I personally was wondering, like, how do you, is there a tip to trim these the cucumbers to like kind of, so Ansley and I were talking about flowers this morning. The cosmos are really pretty, and the cool thing is when you deadhead them, when you trim the flowers, you're helping them stay more productive, so they go less to seed. And I was wondering if that applies to cucumbers, because I want my babies to keep producing. I have one that survived my pest pressure.
So as far as cucumbers, so cucumbers are also in the cucurbit family. So
I meant squash.
They're
actually,
pretty great.
I always do that. I meant squash.
So squash, actually, you do not want to cut these flowers. Reason being, so squash plants have male and female flowers. You can tell the males, one, because they don't have a baby squash on the bottom. So they'll have that like thinner stem. There's also, they open up with this big anther on the inside. Oh, geez. Trying to. When you get squash blossoms in store, often there'll be these guys at the end. But basically another reason why we love pollinators is that for this squash to grow, we need a pollinator. So I've been seeing a lot of really beautiful, gigantic bumblebees in here. You need a pollinator to go into this male flower and then pollinate this female flower. You can tell this one's already been pollinated because it's closed. Without that pollination, this squash that I have in my hand would not have become a beautiful little squash baby. So you do not want to take the flowers off of these plants The flowers that you do, generally there's flowers that are creating fruit, and other flowers when you have plants that are like you're harvesting them for their leaves, like lettuce or chard or basil. If you don't want those plants to go to flower, because at that point those plants are focusing solely on creating seed, and they're going to stop sending energy into creating leaves. Even though once a lettuce has flowers, I'm so sorry, it's done.
It's done.
You got nothing left.
You can try the lettuce tea hack. I heard
Yeah.
like lettuce tea makes you go to bed, sleep.
Lettuce tea. I've never heard of lettuce tea.
It's weird. It's this, I've found it on TikTok, but it's this like this little hack where you use hot water, boil some of the lettuce leaves in it or let it sit, and it tastes really bad. Tastes super bad. But apparently it's really effective, like melatonin type. It'll just knock you out, I guess.
Huh.
But it tastes bad and kind of makes your stomach hurt if you do it every night. So be cautious. Okay.
I'm like, I don't know if that sounds very intriguing to me, but to each their own.
This
is really gross. I want to try it.
Exactly. One more question about the leaves.
Yes.
Is it encouraged? I may have missed it, but is it encouraged to trim any leaves of zucchini or squash to help with airflow or?
No, I wouldn't. Mostly zucchini are really prone to fungal diseases like downy mildew. And I would just, unless you see a leaf that has like really evident signs of disease on it, and even at that point, probably if you cut it, it's too late, honestly. So because I would be, again, concerned, like I said, with that bigger sucker, I would be concerned that you're really creating a space for bacteria and other naughty dads to get into the plant. And yeah, cucurbits do a pretty good job of fighting for themselves, unless it's fungal. Which is why I originally come from the Southeast, and it is very hard to organically grow squash there because it is very, very moist.
Right.
And fungal diseases thrive in moist conditions. So I would this other reason I love this whole family is you plant it and you walk away.
Yes.
Because it's really good at dealing with weed pressure. And it doesn't have like that much that you need to do to make it really healthy and beautiful and thriving. So
that's awesome.
Good friends.
I love the high five. I love how you can really just high five family. Aw. Well, thank you, Ansley, and thank you, Angelica.
Yeah.
Such a great tour. That was great. We're at the end. We have 1 minute left, so I'll just say thank you again to our guests who were able to watch today. We're so grateful you're here. I see you came from a far part. You're not local, so it's so cool you're learning about food systems in other climates and other regions, and just really grateful you could join us. I guess I should say tune in next month. We may do a hybrid tour. We might have some people back on the farm, and we have other tours lined up. The next one coming up will be August, the first weekend of August. We have a naturopathic tour. We'll be talking about calendula and mullein and how they aid you and how you can harvest them, how you can make them into medicine. So that'll be fun. And then literally just stay tuned. We have so much more to share. I hope everyone's doing their part to eat local, stop climate change, and be full and happy.
Thank you, everybody.
So much. All right, take care.